Hey, you're listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0 and ArrowFM. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
We're starting off, as we do every week, unless it's a pay-per-view week, with WWE Raw. Last week we got promised Drew McIntyre taking on Dolph Ziggler in a steel cage match, and they delivered with Drew McIntyre coming out on top, and I will continue to cross my fingers that this means McIntyre will move on.
Yeah, it definitely appears to be the end of the feud, because Ziggler got left lighting.
It's my favourite way to see Dolph Ziggler. But yeah, I'm with you on this. I think McIntyre hopefully is going to move on to some bigger and better things. We know he's in the Rumble match, for example, so that's only how many weeks away we got the Rumble. Rumble is the 27th, so we're looking at about 4 weeks off if I had to do quick math in my head.
3 weeks from Sunday.
3 weeks from Sunday, so 3 weeks of Raw, right? So 3 Raws. So I guess we may do some form of build towards that. As far as I'm aware, he's the only Raw male so far entered into the Royal Rumble. So I don't know. I feel like leading up to the pay-per-view, there's going to be a little bit of a focus on Drew. Just a gut feeling. Triple H, he came out. He may be running Raw and SmackDown, but he still isn't against looking at Seth and trying to draw the best out of Seth Rollins. His former protege turned enemy, seems to still be enemy.
Yeah, and it was just another thing to reinforce there are no automatic rematches anymore.
Yeah, I believe that we can just go forward with that assumption now. There's been so many cases where they have shown that there will not be rematches, so I'm just going to assume that there will never be any rematches from now on. You have to earn yourself your spot. I think the interesting thing here with Triple H and Seth Rollins is, like a couple of times now, we're trying to revert Seth Rollins, trying to switch up his character a little bit. And I believe Triple H wanted the ruthless Rollins back instead of the current Seth Rollins they have. And there's not all too many faces at the top of the card right now, so obviously with Daniel Bryan just flipping over on SmackDown as well, Dean Ambrose has flipped. It would be... I don't know if it would be too detrimental to also flip Rollins when you've got Drew, you've got Bobby, he's not always there, but you got Brock. So I don't quite know whether they will follow through with this, but they're definitely at least teasing a Seth Rollins turn here with Triple H prompting him in.
Yeah, but I think we're beginning the road for the eventual Universal title match at WrestleMania, which would be Seth versus Brock, is what I'm expecting. They could swerve us and we end up with Drew versus Braun, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think at the moment Seth Brock has been, I guess, the most talked about option, to put it in a nice way. So I would expect that would be the way going forward, whether that means Seth wins the Rumble or he earns his shot another way. I don't quite know just yet.
Well, there are 2 pay-per-views between Rumble and the WrestleMania.
A good one and an iffy one.
Yeah. Yeah, one which has been historically used to set up the title match that wasn't chosen by the Rumble.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know. I could see them potentially, if there's a SmackDown winner of the Rumble, doing a Raw Elimination Chamber with the winner becoming the number 1 contender at WrestleMania. There's a couple of different options through Elimination Chamber and then Fastlane on the other end. Fastlane, to me, despite its name, is usually just used as oh god, we have to have a pay-per-view before WrestleMania. and I never put too much faith into that show. So straight after the Seth Rollins segment, we had a fresh start battle royal to determine who would win an Intercontinental Championship match against Dean Ambrose. There were quite a few people in this match. We had Finn, we had Baron, B-Team, Titus O'Neil, Tyler Breeze, Mojo Rawley, Kurt Hawkins, Ascension, a large number of people in here. But overall, Apollo Crews decides to be the man coming out on top.
Yeah, it was neat. Fun fact, the Major Bros were 2 of the last 4 in the match.
I feel like Kurt Hawkins was mainly there for the memes. And then Zack Ryder... yeah. Zack Ryder seemed to also be having this thing on social media he was going on. I believe he didn't have a... it was a no Raw match for the entire year. And this one being on the last day of the year. I'm not sure if that was insult to injury or if it's a supreme coincidence.
I don't know. Don't care.
Yep. I forgot I can't talk Ryder with you. Can I talk Hawkins with you?
It's all right. As long as the talk doesn't include Ryder as well, yeah.
Oh, damn. I was trying to swerve around it. It didn't work. But one man who was pretty mad he didn't win the Battle Royal, Baron Corbin, he got mad. Nobody likes him. Pretty much, I think everybody on the roster hates him at this point, and then Elias says, "I've had enough of you," and just beats the ever-loving hell out of him. I guess that's just lining up where that feud's heading next, in terms of those two.
Yeah, Corbin's not having a good time since he lost his power.
No, he's been put in many handicap situations, and generally just the roster hating him. It's a tough role, General Manager-elect, okay? It's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, he's taken on Elias heading forward, and I think these are two guys I support quite a bit, so it'll be interesting to see where this feud goes in terms of who I will eventually put my money behind. But in the opening game, I would put it behind Elias, purely because this means he got rid of Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I'm expecting Elias to attain at least one title at some point this year. I think he's on definitely on an uptick in his career right now with his face turn.
Fair enough. It'd be interesting to see. I'm with you. I think it probably won't be a Universal or a WWE, but I could see United States or a IC title.
He's going to go to Liverpool and beat Pete Dunne for the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I screwed up. Wouldn't put it past them to do, though. Just saying. And then we're looking forward to the Rumble match. The Women's Royal Rumble gets padded out real quick with Ember Moon, Natalya, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan all sliding their names in. And then a 6-woman tag team match with Banks, Bayley, and Ember Moon taking on the Riot Squad. Ember Moon, obviously the odd one out here. A bit of an interesting situation where it's obvious that Banks and Bayley will be teaming up come this women's tag team title future, and that the Riot Squad will also be together, and then Ember's just sort of there.
Yeah, it almost seems like nobody likes Ember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just using her as the third person in all of these 3-on-3 matches.
That's okay. Because I'd better have Ember chasing the Royal Rumble Championship anyway.
Fair enough. I think looking at the fact that 90%, if not 100, I believe it's going to be 100% of the uninjured female roster will probably end up in this Royal Rumble, other than the champions and their challengers if they have title matches.
I think whoever loses those title matches will be in the Rumble anyway.
You make a good point. The winners of the champions at the time of the Rumble, there we go, that's a way to put it, will find themselves into that Rumble match. We're definitely, assumably, not going to be having the women's tag titles crowned at Elimination Chamber or at Fastlane, so we are lining up for that big WrestleMania future for some combination of these women. We already talked about Seth, so I'm just going to mention in passing that he had a match against Bobby and was pretty heartless. It seemed as though he was pretty darn evil. So we'll see. It seems as though they're doing the Seth thing, but we'll move on quickly and talk more about the fact that Rhyno came back again this week to team up with Heath Slater and lose against Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers in a 3-on-2 handicap match.
It's just nice to see the Singh brother that was injured all year back.
Yeah, it sucks because those two, they're, for better or for worse, going to be stuck together. And when one of them went down, it was pretty noticeable. Jinder's only walking around with one Singh brother behind him. I think at some points the Singh brothers disappeared entirely. But now to see that hard work of coming back from the injury and being able to be in there and wrestle again, because I guess most people may know them purely as the cronies of Jinder Mahal, but these guys put on pretty good showings in the Cruiserweight Classic, I believe they were in. And they've also...
And they were a tag team on 205 Live for a while before they put him with Jinder. So I'd like to see them become a tag team on Raw. Raw needs tag teams.
Raw does need tag teams. I'll give you that one. So, Cruz. We said Apollo Cruz won his match at the Battle Royal. Did not win the Intercontinental Championship, I believe, to nobody's surprise. Dean Ambrose retains and holds on to that title for a little bit longer. But it was a really good showing for Cruz, It wasn't just an absolute stomping. And they seem to be lining Cruz up as a really credible mid-card, if not even potentially upper mid in the future. So... good things for Apollo Crews, who's been doing a whole lot of nothing as of recently.
Yeah, Crews is definitely one of the most athletic guys on the roster, so it's nice to see him getting something. But I don't think anybody expected him to win the title. That would have been a neat change. But I suspect that Ambrose will lose the title to Elias at WrestleMania.
Okay. Bold prediction. But WrestleMania is like 3 months out, so I'm not even going to look that far ahead. I can't figure out what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. So we'll play it day by day. And just before the song, the last thing on Raw, Ronda Rousey and Natalya defeating Nia Jax and Tamina, one of which I'm assuming is lining up to be Ronda Rousey's opponent, and I would have to assume it will be Nia again. I don't know if they quite trust the Tamina-Ronda Rousey match.
I don't know. I'd rather have Tamina.
Yeah, I'd rather the fresh matchup, definitely. But I don't know. It feels like Tamina is the lesser of the two, kayfabe-wise. How they've just been pitched. They don't feel even to me, but that may just be an incorrect assumption on my part. We'll have to see what way they go. So it is time for our entrance theme of the week. Sorry to bring it down just before the song, but obviously this week, if you do not know, we have learned of the passing of Mean Gene Okerlund, absolute classic from WWF. You've probably heard him in some WWE Network show, even if you didn't watch the old stuff. He's been around quite a few times, popping up here and there all over WWE. And we've decided to play Ric Flair's theme, purely for a specific line that Ric Flair said that we will play before the song.
Mean! Woo! My God! Gene! Woo!
And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0 and ArrowFM. Grady and Josh. We've finished with Raw. That means it's time to jump on over to SmackDown. But the New Day kicks off SmackDown with an interesting segment. There was some math. There's Big E in a diaper. I've got nothing.
They parodied Steiner math perfectly.
They're in the Rumble. That's what I can take away from this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I hate putting this out there.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're getting to the point where it's almost like I don't even care anymore if they break up or not. Because I'm starting not to care about the New Day at all.
You said it. You said the thing. I have no reaction. I'm frozen.
Well, you need to let it go.
No. No, Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, they had a match to earn the final slot in the Fatal 5-Way match. I'm refusing to acknowledge that pun. Samoa Joe comes out on top as the more ferocious of the competitors, and we'll talk more about what happens afterwards when we talk about that Fatal 5-Way at the end of the show. Shinsuke Nakamura, he ain't happy that Rusev's now the United States champion, and he's bringing the fight to him.
Yeah, and he, quote-unquote, left both Rusev and Lana laying in the ring.
That's a way to put it. I believe Shinsuke accidentally fell backwards onto a Lana that was on his back, and then proceeded to knee Rusev in the face. But, yeah, I guess he did leave them both laying, in theory. One of them on accident, and one of them definitely on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the way the spoilers wrote it, and I'm like, they actually did something where they had a man strike a woman?
On accident.
And then I saw the segment, I'm like, oh, okay.
I assume this is just leading to a rematch at the Rumble. That would be my my basic assumption. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, it would look like it would lead to it, but remember, there are no automatic rematches.
You make a good point. But Nakamura is beating the ever-loving hell out of him. We'll find out. We'll see what happens. The Miz and Shane McMahon. It was a smaller segment, but I'm in. I'm loving it. I do really hope it is still just a pause between Miz and Bryan, but they're at least doing some solid comedy.
Well, this could be the way to get him as a face and get him over. So
possibly. We'll have to wait and see. And then some stuff that I'm solidly not enjoying. Sonya Deville versus Naomi. They're running with the Mandy Rose as a homewrecker storyline. And we'll see how this goes. That's all I've got.
Yeah. It is what it is.
I'm not a huge fan of these types of storylines. But, you know, if it's what's getting Mandy heat, then I guess you're going to do it. And I'm going to be on the 1,000% sure that none of this is going to happen without everybody anybody affected by it agreeing to it happening. Therefore, you know, my opinion doesn't matter, does it? If they're all cool with it, then it's a wrestling storyline and they're going to run with it. Go nuts. Just not my favorite type of storyline, that is all. John Cena shows up. He decides to be his John Cena-y self. He'll be on Raw next week, but it was SmackDown this week. And he ran into a certain man.
Yeah, that was an interesting promo with John Bradshaw Cena, or maybe John Sr., and Becky Lynch.
I quite like the interaction between the two. They seem to fit together well. And Becky still being on her shooting star trajectory and storyline at the moment, and then Cena sort of coming back and trying to, I guess, ground everything. It was quite a good combo.
Yeah, it was. They definitely worked well together. So, and Becky held her own, which is a good thing. And they had a decent match afterwards.
Yeah, then Cien Almas and Zelina Vega came out for a mixed tag team match that they should have known there was no chance of them winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they could see their opponents anyway.
God damn. Maybe he's losing his magic in his old age. He's no longer invisible. He's starting to become visible. But again, despite the fact they were never gonna beat the team of Cena and Lynch, it's still putting Cien pretty high up in the card. Even if he is constantly losing, he's constantly losing against some top tier talent.
Yeah, I do think Johnny Otis is poised to have a really, really good year.
Mm-hmm.
He's up in the upper echelon, so at least he knows that he's going to be used and stuff. And even if he is losing, as you said, he is losing to the top talent. It's not like he's losing to Kurt Hawkins.
Yeah, I'd say Cien is probably in the top 10 on SmackDown. Obviously, I don't have those laid out in my head, so I may be wrong. But I feel like he's up there in those top 10 guys for SmackDown. And he seems to be someone who they can go to have a good match with anyone. It's just the classic cocky bad guy character. You can plonk him in with anybody, it works fine. And then his in-ring work speaks for itself pretty much. But we are on to the main event of SmackDown. It is a fatal 5-way match with Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe, Mustafa Ali, and AJ Styles to earn a WWE Championship match at the Royal Rumble against Daniel Bryan. Now let me just look through the possibilities here. Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio would be amazing. Daniel Bryan, Mustafa Ali, we saw it coming. It's going to be a great match if it happens. Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan, seen it a couple times, but not going to be against it. Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan. I believe they have fought before, possibly not in WWE, but Styles would match up pretty damn well to have a great match.
They did wrestle in a gauntlet match a few months back.
Boom, I'm going to count that. And then the 5th opportunity, Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, but there's no way they're going to do that route again, so let's not even talk about that option. Yeah, that's the option we went with.
Yeah, we're going to clearly get a stipulation this time.
For the 18th time? You think it's time for a stipulation now?
Yeah, it's only the 3rd.
Potato. 13, 18, pretty similar numbers. 1 plus 8 is 9, and then divide that by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I honestly, as after last week, when I was thinking about it, I was like, it's not a good idea to just throw Ali immediately into the main event.
Mm-hmm.
Let him be built. Let him get there naturally, and it'll be better. Besides, there are 2 pay-per-views after the Royal Rumble that they could do it anyway.
As long as we're not muddying the Miz waters, I'm fine.
And I'm fine with AJ winning. It's going to be a great match, and as I said, they're almost certainly going to have to put a stipulation on it just to make it different than the previous 2 matches, which were great matches.
Yeah. The thing I think that's interesting and different about this one is they are, the AJ Styles is a much more angry AJ Styles, a much more dangerous AJ Styles, the one that attacks Vince McMahon. And I believe WWE.com here are billing it as the new Daniel Bryan taking on the real AJ Styles. So, interesting again, we were just talking about, lacking some faces at the top of the card. I'm not saying this is a heel turn for AJ, at least isn't there yet, if that is the direction they are going, but it's yet another guy who's riding the line behind good guy who's pretty darn vicious.
Yeah. That's another reason I'm fine with it, because it's not going to be the exact same characters. Because there is being some tweaks, and there's always the possibility that because of what he did to Vince, that he may not make it to the Royal Rumble. And he may get replaced.
True.
So, it's still pretty open, and it's not cut and dry, and so we don't really know what's going to happen until it happens at Royal Rumble.
Pretty much, yeah. All right, well, that's all we've got time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRadio, Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRadio, and we'll see you all next week.